and welcome back to my channel. First of all, the thumbnail I'm going to look different in because I did the thumbnail the other day, recorded the video the other day, I just don't like the footage and I decided to change it a little bit, so that's what I am. So I am going to just refilm it but just not to retake the thumbnail. Sorry, laziness, I know, but I'm also sitting in a bath whilst doing this, so I'm going to be hopping in and out. But I thought I would just do this video. So before we get into this, my name's Amelia. I upload reading vlogs, book videos, weekend or weekly vlogs, and what else do I upload? Sometimes lifestyle content, some stuff that's nothing to do with that. And the lifestyle content can include theatre. So this video I'm very excited for. It's my first ever one on this channel, but hopefully not the last. This is my book wrap up of 2022. I said this year I wanted to read more. I wanted to get back into reading because when I was younger I used to love reading, and there was a time in my life I would read constantly, and I just stopped for no apparent reason apart from the fact that I just didn't read. So I decided this year to get back into it. I didn't really think it was going to be as big of a thing for me as it has become. It's actually become quite a big obsession for me, and I'm like obsessed with reading, surprisingly. But I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. Let me just put my computer down because I'm not going to go on my computer anymore. No. I thought what I'll do first, before I talk about the books that I've read. Hello? Okay, cool. I will do like a screen recording on my story graph and we can go through that. So I feel like I should check my bath. I feel like I'm going to get halfway through my story graph and I'm going to stop and I'm going to do two screen recordings, but we're going to try it. I use Storygraph and Goodreads for like tracking my reading. Goodreads I just use because I have as my challenge, and then Storygraph I use for like the stats, I guess you want to call it, and that's why I am showing you that and not Goodreads, because Goodreads I can see like all the books I've read. I had a challenge of 25, I read 35 books, 34 books, 35, I don't know, one of the two. So we are going to start with, we're going to go with Storygraph and just have a quick brief overview of my stats. I'm not going to talk too much about it, I'm just going to do a quick overview because I want to talk about the books I've read this year. Some of them I'll be showing you, some of them I won't because I cannot be able to get them all. So the first part of Storygraph we get is read, how many books you've read. So I've read 35 books, 12,930 pages this year, which is a lot of books for me, for someone who was not a reader before the year. So my goal for next year is now 50. So we'll see if we can top this. We're having a full-time job, it's difficult, but that's the plan. My highest part of that pie chart is emotional reads. I read a lot of emotional books, but they're the books I love, so. And then in pace we have 56% medium, which is the most, is the colour pace I go for by the looks of it, 29% fast and 15% slow. Page number, I'm hungry. I did not eat dinner, so that's great. Page number is maximum, well the most is 97%, 300 to 499 pages, with 3% being under 300. What is that 3%? Oh, normal people. I thought that was like 300, but I don't know. Fiction to non-fiction. 3% is non-fiction, which is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. Or Alderton, I don't know how you say that last name. And then fiction is 90%, 97%, which is my go-to books are fiction. However, I have got some more non-fiction books on my shelf that I really need to get to. And they were on my TBR for this year. I just never got around to them because they're just one of the ones that take a while for me to get to. So we'll get there. Then for genres, the most genres I read are contemporary and romance. So contemporary romance, I kind of guess you could say. They're the kind of books I always go to, like I reach for. They're my go-to. With, I want to say 35 books being contemporary, which is all of the books I read this year. The format of books have been 97% print, and I did actually listen to one on Audible, which was Addicted to You, by Krista Rebecca Ritchie, and I really want to get the series. Like, it's my goal to get that series. my most read author is Colleen Hoover, with 7 of my books read by her. I've read loads of different authors this year, but that's my most read author. So I've got a bit of a sniffly nose. And then finally, you can see the little like stats. I'm not going to read this out because you can see the difference between the months. My highest month reads was February and March when I read 6 books, which was insane. But that's when I had a lot more time to myself because I worked. I mean, I did read more in January, but I just also think I did start using this in February, so a few of the ones from January got added in February. So actually, I'm going to say between January to March was when I had the most reads, because that was when I had the most time. April, I was definitely in a reading slump, so. And then finally, you can see my ratings. My average rating for books is 4.04. I think I am very generous, but some of these have changed. So, yeah. Although I am going to be talking about all the books I've read today, I was going to do a separate video for my 5-star reads. However, I'm going to just end screen recording. I think I'm just going to talk about it here because I'm going to talk about all the books I've read, but bear with me just to check them off. Okay, so we are now going to talk about all the books I've read because 35 books is a lot. I did briefly speak about this in my tier ranking video, but I'll be just ranking them. This is me talking about all the books I've read and what I thought. And I'm not going to go too much into depth because we're going to make this otherwise. This video will be like an hour's long, but I am going to try and be a bit more in depth. And some of them, the ones that really stuck out to me, will be shown on camera because why not? I should have got one other one, but it's fine. We won't go with it. So we're just going to use Goodreads to go through the books I've read this year. You know what, we're just going to go from top to bottom actually. Cool, we're going in order. Bear with me. Let's get this in the right order. Okay, Addicted to You is in the wrong place, but we're just going to say it anyway. Addicted to You by Christina Rebecca Ritchie. I gave this a 3 stars. I think it was a good introduction to the Addicted series and to Lillian Lowe's story. I really did find it moving, and I found myself connecting to it in several ways. I think partly because of my childhood came out in it a little bit, slightly. But also, I just think the story of them, they were a beautiful couple. I think the both of them knew they had addictions. I think Lily knew she had an addiction. She didn't want to admit it to people, and I think Lowe deep down knew he had an addiction, but he also didn't want to admit it. I think listening to it on Audible was such a different perspective to reading the book, so I do want to buy the book so I can properly read it and just read it with my own eyes. So I will be rereading it, but I gave it a 3. I think it was a 3.5 star, maybe a bit more, a bit less, but that's what I did. I have actually got a fan fiction on here, and if no one knows about it, then it's Duplicity by it's on Wattpad by Happy Days 1D. I still need to get updated with Complicity, but yeah, it was a very good fan fiction. I actually was obsessed with it, really loved it. So kind of want to reread it and then start rereading Complicity again, but who knows. Anyway, now getting back to books. I gave that Duplicity series, if you want to know, a 5 star. I also started reading this in 2021, so actually it's technically a 2021 read. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone is it's called in the UK. Not. I actually started reading this in 2020. Or 2021. I can't really remember. And then I read it within 4 days of 2022, the rest of it. So I was I had most of it to read. And yeah, I gave it a 5 star because it's a classic for me. Harry Potter is my favourite. I love Harry Potter with my heart, so I could not put it down. I thought it was a really good story, and compared to the film, I love the films. So the book was just, it was great. I have nothing to say. If you don't know the story of Harry Potter, get to know. But it just follows the life of Harry Potter, who is a wizard, and his challenges to life of yeah, you know it. Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This book I gave it 5 stars as well. It was epic. It was great. It follows the life of Queenie, who has a very a very sad beginning of the book of finding out what she went through. She's going through a break or separation or breakup with her boyfriend. I think his name was Tom. and I will be honest with you, it was just so sad. It was so sad, but also like relatable, and things that you saw were brought up in the book. You could tell, like, you could just feel gripped. That's what I'm trying to think of, and I loved it. And I do want to reread it so bad. It feels like yesterday that I read it. Normal People by Sally Rooney. This book I actually picked up to show because I haven't read it for such a long time. Obviously, I've only read it once this year. I watched a series in 2020 in lockdown, and I loved it. That the book was just everything to me. I wanted to read. And this one is the life of Connell and Marianne from school to uni. They're two Irish couples, two Irish people, and they're like going from school to uni, and they both led different lives. At school, Marianne was the outsider and Connell was popular, and then when they went to uni, the story switched, and Connell was not popular. He was very much the outsider, whilst Marianne was popular. And this follows the story of their relationships, them falling out and them getting other relationships, and it's just a beautiful story, and in some ways relatable but not fully, and I just loved it, and I really want to rewatch the series again now, so I think I might do that tonight. But yeah, I gave this a 4-star. I think the reason this was my first Sally Rooney book, probably the only one I actually like, because I've only read 2 of hers, the one I don't like, and because of the there's no quotation marks in it, it was really difficult to read at first, but as soon as I got into it, I loved it, so 4-star. I'm just going to move these back because I was reaching for them. Next one is 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I gave this a 5-star. I did love this book. It was the first Taylor Jenkins Reid book I read, and it was just phenomenal. It follows the life of Evelyn Hugo, who is an actress, and her, like, the story behind the 7 husbands she had. But it also kind of follows this girl, Monique, who is the journalist, and you see how their stories kind of intertwine, and it's great because you didn't see it coming. It ends off by Colin Hoover. There's obvious reasons that I brought the book with me out. This book was fantastic. It was a 5-star read. My first Colin Hoover book. My first Coho book that got me into Coho books. And it follows the life of Lily, and then Ryle and Atlas. This is definitely more Lily and Ryle's story. Lily is a florist. Ryle's a surgeon. And they have this, like, I want to say epic love story that turns into tragedy in some ways. It is a bit of a hard read in some ways if you don't like abuse. It's the best way I can say it. I mean, no one likes abuse, but if you struggle with reading abuse, then that's what it's kind of about. But it is I like the meaning of the story, and then there's Atlas, who is Lily's childhood sweetheart, basically. Childhood boyfriend and first love, and it's just a great story and a great start to the series. It's a duology now. This was really, I loved it. I found it really cute, and not cute, that's what I say, but it was interesting to read. At first I really liked Ryle, and then I hated Ryle, if that makes sense. Next one is We Just Clicked by Annabelle. This one I gave a 3-star. I don't even have the book on me to remember what it's about. I borrowed it from the library. All I remember, it was like 2 social media influencers trying to grow their social media, and they used each other basically to do that, whilst the main girl also had a thing for this other guy. I don't remember any of the names. I think, and it was just, yeah, I didn't really like it. It was alright. I read it in 2 days. It was very fast to read, but it was just very odd. So yeah, I gave it a 3-star. I think at that point when I read it, I was in a very generous mood of book rating. So then I read Definitely Fine by Amy Lavelle. This book gave a 4-star. It was great. It was a great story. I think it was funny. It was beautiful. This girl follows the life of Hannah, who has just lost her mum, and it tells the story of how she's coping and how she deals with, like, trying to help her dad and her sister, and not really giving herself time to focus on herself in a really tough time of her life. And her relationship as well was great. I actually really loved the story. I think it had a funny twist to such a sad book. And so if the funniness wasn't in it, it would have been a very sad book. And I liked the idea that Amy Lavelle was able to put the funny in something that's such a sad and heavy topic, which is death. I said that's so... Yeah. Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins. I actually read Definitely Fine in this book for a reading vlog, my first reading vlog on this channel. But Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins. This book follows, I don't remember the characters' names, I'm sorry, but it follows a girl who goes away to Jersey for work. She picks up the wrong suitcase. She opens it to find it's stuff that is her soulmate, and she thinks it's a soulmate, so she goes on a journey around Jersey whilst trying to find where her parents fell in love and find a story out about that. She wants to find this guy, Jasper. I remember his name, Jasper. I think her name was Laura. I've only heard about that before. And then there's Ted, who is the taxi driver, who we can all guess is another interesting member of Laura's life in the show. I think that was her name. I can't guarantee it was, but I think that was her name. And I gave it a 3-star. It was a very slow, first half. Second half was quite more interesting. Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This book was fantastic. I have spoken about this several times. This is about Tate and Miles, and Tate is like the sunshine. Miles is a bit more like the grumpy guy, but he has his own reason to have his own rules, and it's meant to be only friend. The rule is don't get attached and don't expect a future. Never ask about the past and don't expect a future. That's the one. And yeah, we all know what's going to happen, but it's a great story. I fell in love with it. 5-star. Ghost by Dolly Alderton is a book about, I don't remember the character's name, about a girl who meets a guy. They have several amazing dates. They fall for each other, and then he ghosts her, and then he comes back and gives her some same excuse every guy will give a girl, and then he ghosts her again, and she gets heartbroken twice by this boy to then realise it's not worth it. And it's a great story. I found it, at the time I read it, I was so relatable because I was getting ghosted at that same time, so it was very hard for me. Skies Everywhere by Jodie Nelson. This was actually a reread. I read this when I was 15, and I loved it at the time. Now I'm not so sure. I can't remember the reading. It's about a girl who lost her twin sister. Kind of has a thing for her twin sister's boyfriend. They never broke up. He was going to propose. But then also meets this other guy. Has a thing for him. And at the time when I was younger, I found that really amazing. And then the love triangle was just too weird and for me when I reread it. So I gave it a 3-star. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, 4 stars. Loved it. Not my favourite, but great. Conversations with Friends. I don't remember the characters' names. I don't really remember anything about this book. That's how effective it was me. I gave this a 1-star. I know that I'm trying to rush through this video. I'm just not going to go into too much depth about each of these books just because I want to have a bath. But I also want to film this, Conversations with Friends, though, did not like it at all. I just couldn't read it at all. I read it, it put me in a reading slump, hated it. It took me a month and 3 days to read this book, and not just because I had rehearsals, it just took me so long. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This book was great. It was a good story. I rated it 4 stars. It's about Lucy, and I've forgotten his name. But this girl Lucy and this guy Josh. That's it, Lucy and Josh. And they had it's basically enemies to lovers, and I love enemies to lovers, so it just worked. It was a great story. There was a film about it. You should watch it. I should have my water over my throat, so try. And I think I said it, but I'll say it again. I rated that 4 stars. Daisy Jones and the Six. This book has a hold on my heart. It is a choker. I love it so much. I have a chokehold of this book. I want to reread it so bad. I'm waiting for March to come so I can watch the series with Sam Claflin in it. Can I make a point? It's so gorgeous. But this book is it's just so good. It's an interview style. It's about Daisy Jones and the Six. The Six are a band, and Daisy Jones is a singer, and they get together, they work together, and it's about the story of. It's based in the 70s, around that time, and it's through drugs, sex, and rock and roll, basically. That kind of time when that was just the life. It's just a really good book, and I really recommend it. The Love Hypothesis. This used to be 5 stars. This is now a 3-star read. I liked it. I don't remember much about it, but it was a good book. It was alright. It was a bit cringy at times and a bit icky. It was good. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I rated this a 4-star. I loved it. One of my favourite films and a really good book. This book is incredible. Reminders of Him by Coho. Oh my god, this book is just fan-freaking-tastic. I read this in 24 hours. Or about 2 days. Yeah, 2 days. I loved it so much. It was such a really moving story. This follows the life of Kenna, who has just got out of jail for the death of her boyfriend, who is the father of her child, who she doesn't know, hasn't met. And then it also follows the story of Ledger, who was Scotty's best friend. And it's just a really beautiful story. I cried. I loved it. 5-star read for me. Then we have Makeup Breakup by Lily Madden. This got a 3-star. Don't really remember what it's about. All I know is about someone creating an app and their rivals, and yeah. I gave it a 3-star. Book Lovers, again, a book was overly hyped. It was about Charlie, and I don't even remember her name. But yes, Book Lovers was it was alright. I gave it a 3.5 star. It was kind of boring, if I'm honest with you. Everything I Know About Love, I gave 3 stars. I think it was like a 3.5 star, 3.75. I loved the story. I think it was an interesting memoir. And listened about Dolly's life, and I think relatable at times, but I just wouldn't say it's my favourite. But it's a memoir you can't really, because it's not something you've done, or it's not a fictional book, it's not something you can just get lost in. All Your Perfects by Colin Hoover. This book, it was, you know what, I thought I was going to hate it. I was really not enjoying it at first, and I fell in love with it. This one is the story of Graham and I can't remember the names. I don't know if his name is Graham. But it's a great story. It's definitely challenging, and it does talk about topics that are hard hitting for some people, but I think is really important as well. And I think I like that about her books, because they do cover important topics and things do happen even if you don't notice it. Oh my god, I need to have my bath. It's 10 o'clock. You know what? We will come back to this after my bath. So when I come back, I will be in pyjamas. My pyjama shirt. But that's fine. I'm going to change. 1 sec, I want my hair thing. I just want my hair to look a little bit good. I told you I'd got changed, just had a bath. I'm also like a bit more bunged up because the bath was hot. But oh well. Let's get on with this. The next book is Carrie Hope Fletcher, Would This Kiss. This book I gave 5 stars. It's about Lorelai, who is a very extraordinary young woman. On the back it says ordinary, but she's extraordinary. She kisses people and she can see how they're going to die. That is something. But I think it's a really interesting story. And she meets Grayson and she wants to love him and she wants to fall for him, but she's scared if she does that she's going to find out how he dies. And it's an amazing story. I was gripped on it. Look how much I tabbed it. And I loved it. It was my first ever hardback read, and for those of you who know me, know I do not like reading hardback books, so it was tough. I am really hungry. We then have another choice One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book was amazing. It was a good book. I gave it 5 stars. I read it for a 24-hour reading challenge, and I really want to do another one. I just don't know if I'm going to have the time to. But it was a great book. It was a great story about Emma, I think that's her name, and her ex-boyfriend, or no, her husband Jesse and her fiance Sam. It's a very complicated story, but before she dates Sam and gets engaged with Sam, she's dating Jesse since she was end of high school, and then they get engaged, they get married, and then he gets in an accident. They all think he's dead. She moves on with her life for 5 years, meets Sam, gets engaged, and then change of quality again because my camera battery's died. So here I am filming on my phone, and we're just going to continue. So I just need to find where I got up to because I have to use my iPad as my thingy-bobby. to look at the books I've read. Okay, I didn't want. I was gonna wait till tomorrow, but I thought no, because I'll probably just forget what I got up to and start again. And I don't want to start again. So after My True Loves, I read The Unhoneymooners. This book was great. Oh, yeah, I did say The Unhoneymooners. I gave 4 stars. I wait for another part of that 24-hour reading challenge, and it was a good book. It was enemies to lovers, fake dating, all in one, and I love when books are like that because it was just a beautiful story. I loved it. It was about Olive and Ethan. I think that was the name. And because Olive's twin sister's wedding, everyone apart from her and Ethan get food poisoning, so the honeymoon has to be taken as it's non-refundable. So they both go on this honeymoon and have to pretend to be her sister and her sister's husband. So they're married, but they hate each other, and then they end up fake dating whilst out there, or fake marriage, and then they end up falling for each other. It's such a cute story. Loved it. Gave it 4 stars. The next one is Archer's Voice. This book is a very, very cute book by Amelia Sheridan. I fell in love with this book. Like, I still want to read it. I still want to reread it again. I just can't get over how amazing this book is. It's a beautiful story. It follows the story of Bree and Archer. Bree is a girl who moved to Pelion, Maine, just to forget everything she left behind back home, whilst Archer is living in Pelion, Maine, but being hidden from the world, trying to forget basically what happened when he was younger, and he's a mute, so he doesn't speak. So Bree's dad was deaf, so she signed to him, so she knew sign language, and was it's how she started communicating with Archer, and it was such a cute story, and I to this day want to reread it because I loved it so much. It was such a beautiful story, and I think it was just I gave this 5 stars because it was just great. Oh. I'm gonna sneeze so I can feel it. I hate getting ripped up. The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This book is just everything and more. I absolutely love the story. I loved Rowan and Zara. I immediately just loved it. It's about Rowan and Zara. Rowan is the COO. He's in charge of Dreamland. His grandfather's will states that he needs to do something to like fix that help for like a certain amount of time so he can get part of his inheritance. Well, so he doesn't really want to do it, but he does it for the sake of that. Because there's 3 brothers, which is why there's 3 books. The 3rd one comes out next year, and I can't wait. But I haven't even read the 2nd one yet. There's 3 brothers, and each book tells a story of what they have to do in order to get part of the inheritance, and none of them want their dad getting it, so they have to make sure that they complete it. And then you've got Zara, who loves Dreamland and really wants to help it and wants to work for it. And yeah, she's just great. The story is great, and I loved it. Enemies to Lovers, of course I loved it. I gave this a 4-star rating. Cool. And then we have Love and Other Words. This book follows the story of Macy and Ethan, childhood friends. So they're friends. It's a friends to lovers story, and I love the story because you have the then and now, but each chapter follows different. Like you have the then, and you have the now, then you have the then, and it just something happens in each chapter, and it kind of like it's great. I fell in love with this book. I think it's a really good book, and I think it's just a really good story. I don't really like. Well, it's not. I don't really like. I'm just not a massive fan of friends to lovers books, but this one I actually really enjoyed. So, and I absolutely love this cover. I ordered this Blackwell, I think it was, because I really wanted this cover, not the cover we have in the UK. So I am very happy with this. The next one is November 9 by Coho or Colin Hoover. This follows Ben and Fallon. Ben is a writer, Fallon is an actor. She then had an accident where she got burned, and so she thought she wasn't able to like follow her dream in acting. Because of it, whilst Ben is a writer as mentioned, and they meet on one day, and on November 9, and then they meet every year on the same date, and it's such a great story. I love it so much. Beautiful story. It was a great story. I gave it a 4 star. It was amazing. The next one is Kingdom of the Wicked. This book is definitely was definitely out of my comfort zone. I didn't think I was gonna like it because it's not really my kind of go-to book to read. It's more of a fantasy book, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's about a girl called Amelia, who is a witch, and her twin sister Victoria, who's also a witch, and then her sister dies, and then she meets the Kingdom of Wicked, and it's a story, and it's intense. And I gave this a 4 star. I think it's 4.5, between around 4 star. And I absolutely fell in love with this book. It's so good, and I really need to read the next 2 books because I just need to know what happens. We're getting near the end now because I recently read that. I told you we've got 4 books left to talk about, and I'm actually going to talk about the one I'm reading now because I'm like halfway. Twisted Love. This book I read from a video as well. It was an interesting book. I liked it. It was a cute story, but it's basically about Ava and Alex. Ava is, I can't remember what their jobs were, but Ava is made to be looked after by Alex, by Ava's brother. So Alex looks after her, and love story happens. It's a very cute, has a bit of a twist. It's a bit darker than expected. It's definitely a bit more spicier than expected, and I liked it. I mean, a lot of books I read have got a bit of spice in there. Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I rated this a 3 star. I liked it. It just was not my favourite. I think there's times I didn't like it, and that big plot story, I will be honest, I wasn't a massive fan of. I think I just didn't like what's the word? Oh my god, the topic, like what it was. I'm sorry, I just had a hot bath, my room's cold, so it's probably not helping me. I might go make a tea or something, I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling on. So the next one is It Starts With Us. This is the second one too. It Ends With Us, and it's Atlas and Lily's story. It's cool. It's a beautiful story. I understand why people found it a bit like because it's not a typical Coho book that has like a twist. And I was reading it waiting for a twist. Nothing happened. But I liked that nothing happened, and I liked that it was no twist and it was just a chill, nice book, a cute love story. And then she had a brother, and he has a brother. He meets her, and it's great. Spoiler if you haven't read it, sorry. And then we have Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. This book, I had high hopes going into it because I loved Archer's voice. This book was okay. It followed Gabriel and Crystal. Crystal was a stripper, whilst Gabriel had been kidnapped when he was a kid, so he had like tormented past that's kind of like impacted his life, and he goes to the strip club trying to like gain a bit of confidence being touched by a girl. And yeah, it's a good story, and I liked it. I just found it a bit boring and a bit slow. Like the middle bit was where it went fast, and then the rest of it was a bit and I only like continued reading it because I wanted to finish it and find out what happened. But I did like the story, and it was a cute ending, and yeah, but 3 stars from me. And finally, I'm currently reading, and hopefully by the time you see this video, finished reading In the Holidays by Christina Lauren. This is a Christmas book following a girl called May who is basically living Groundhog Day. She loves the cabin that her family and her family friends go to every year for Christmas, and she loves it that much that when she gets told they're going to sell it, she gets really upset. Then an accident happens, and then she's like living repeating the same day over and over again. I am 53% of the way through whilst speaking about it, so I can't fully say how I feel about it because I don't know what happens fully through it. but where I'm at the moment, I really like it, and I think it's gonna get a 4-star, at least a 4-star rating from me, unless it'll probably stay there unless it dips down. I don't see it going up further than 4, but yeah. So that is the end of this video. It's the end of my reading wrap up of 2022. So hopefully this is not the final one on this channel, because I do love reading and I'm hoping to stay continuously loving it next year. But if you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. Please comment down below. Please comment down below maybe if you read, if what your favourite books were this year. Love to see some in the comments. And if you did like it, like, subscribe, comment, like, follow my social medias that I linked in the description, and I will see you again very soon with another video.